We're here, we're queer, and we're ready to have a good time. I come to you from in front of the Pantone wall to talk to you about my top albums of 2017. If you missed it, this week Spotify did this whole 2017 wrap-up where they sent you your playlist of your top listened to songs, and I was reading through mine, and it was a good time. Unsurprisingly, my top artists were Lorde, Munna, and Carly Rae Jepsen. So I'm here, I'm going to talk to you about my favourite albums of this year. I've got a top 3, and then I'm going to talk about some other ones that aren't my top 3, but definitely I think deserve mentioning. So, let's get into it. First album I want to talk about is the debut album from the band Munna, who are my favourite band of all time. They're amazing. They're so good. This album is like obnoxiously good for a debut. They're entirely self-produced and the whole album is beautifully put together. The production is phenomenal and the songwriting is incredible. They are absolute masters of the whole putting a sad song and disguising it as something upbeat, and that's like my favourite genre. Is like, I'm crying but I'm also dancing. The album is very kind of 80s inspired. It's got a lot of really cool 80s chugging bass lines, which genuinely, if you put a chugging 80s bass line onto any song, I will like it. That's just a fact. I would say my top 3 songs from that album are I Know a Place, which is my favourite song of the year. Like, hands down, my favourite song of the year. I Know a Place, Crying on the Bathroom Floor, which is like unbelievably good. It's so good. And the final track, ignoring the outro, Everything. They are an incredible force to be reckoned with, and I cannot wait to hear more music from them. I just admire them so much. They inspire my music a lot. I love everything that they stand for in the LGBT community. They're all 3 of them are all queer, and they're just such a good time. And their songs bang, so go listen to them. They deserve it. They're great. Next album. In my head, I play a supercar. Obviously, my favourite album of the year is Melodrama. It's an incredible, incredible body of work. It's phenomenal. It's like, there's no way to describe it. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. It's Lorde's mastery of songwriting just breaks my heart, because I'm like, wow, I'll never be that good. The thing I love about Lorde is the fact that me and her are the same age, and like her birthday's like a month before mine. So I feel like we're experiencing life at the same rate, obviously ignoring the fact that she's like stupid famous. The way that she's experiencing life, she just is soundtracking my life, because Pure Heroin was like the album of my teens, and then Melodrama just felt like the album of my early 20s, and it's just mad that like she just hits me in all the right places, and I could talk about Melodrama for so long. It's a phenomenal album, and if you haven't listened to it already, you really should. You like really should. My favourite songs from this album are Green Light, Supercut, and Hard Feelings. I saw Lorde live a couple of months ago at Alexandra Palace in London. I'll put in the clip, but I took a video of when Green Light played, because it was her final song, and you can feel the energy coming through the video. It's absolutely incredible. New York isn't New York without you. The next album I want to talk about is St. Vincent's Mass Seduction. Is also co-produced by Jack Antonoff, which is the producer that Lorde worked with for her album. So I think Jack Antonoff is one of my favourite producers. He just, like, everything his hands touch, I love. His work's so good. Because he also produced 1989, Taylor Swift's last album, and he produced a lot of her current album, Reputation, which is sneaky quite good. I quite like it. Yes, St. Vincent's Mass Seduction. Fantastic album. I believe it's like her 5th studio album, which is a good time. A lot of people aren't a big fan of this album of hers because they think that she's taken a step backwards in terms of being progressive with her music. But I watched an interview with her and she said that she was tired of being clever and she just wanted to make something that didn't have any bells or whistles, or she wanted to make a song that could be someone's favourite song. And I think she really did that with this album. It's a lot more accessible than her old stuff, and I like that. I like not feeling like I have to try when I'm listening to music. And this album is a really nice balance of cool pop. Like, it's still interesting to listen to. It's not just like snapping your fingers along and dancing to the club. There's still guts to it, but it's more accessible and more relatable, I guess. My favourite songs are New York, Young Lover, and Happy Birthday Johnny. Happy Birthday Johnny, just the storytelling is so raw and so, it just makes a vision in your head. It's just phenomenal. Please go listen to St. Vincent's Mass Seduction because it's a phenomenal album. It's really well produced and it's just like a good time. So that was my top 3 albums of the year. I would recommend all 3 of those albums in their entirety. I think that they're all fantastic and really, really worth a listen, like absolutely worth a listen. So now I'm going to talk about a couple of albums that didn't quite make my top 3, but are still very much worth a listen. Didn't tell me goodnight for the first I want to talk about is Superfruit's album, Future Friends, which I really appreciate, especially as a queer person, because they're just giving me pop bangers with male pronouns, and I love it. And I really I needed it. The thing about a lot of queer music is that, understandably within the queer community there's a lot of angst, but that, when it gets manifested into art, makes for a lot of punk music and a lot of aggressive rap, surprisingly. And it was nice to have some gay bangers. Some gay pop bangers. Gay icons are dominated by mostly heterosexual women, and that is fine. I'm not mad at that, but it's nice to have someone singing from my perspective, if you understand what I'm getting at. And sticking with the super queer theme, my favourite song from that album is Guy.exe. The music video for that is also stellar, and it's just a really good song. It bangs. Sorry about it. Next up is Anna of the North's Lovers, which is another very good album. You might seem to notice a theme here that I really like 80s style music. I think it's great. It's so much fun and I love it. Anna of the North's Lovers is a really good album. Some people might think it's a little bit samey throughout, but I really like it. And it has produced one of my favourite songs of the year, which was Someone, which is so good, unbelievably good. It's such a good song. It hits in just the way you want it to, without being predictable, and it's it's so good. Please go listen to it. I'm going to put links to everything in the description, and I'm going to make my top albums playlist again, so check that out if you want to. That'd be great. I've been washed away. Last 2 albums, Lewis Watson's Midnight. This one's a little bit random compared to the rest of the albums that I've talked about, but Lewis Watson is phenomenal. I've been a fan of his for a very long time, and this album did not let me down. It's fantastic, and he's self-funded the whole thing, and I really give him kudos to that, because especially as a musician, that's bloody hard. It's a really good album, I love it. His songwriting is fantastic. He inspires my songwriting quite a lot. He's really worth a listen, and he actually did a acoustic version of this album as well, so there's the full produced version and there's acoustic version, both of which I would very much recommend, but I personally prefer the full produced version because I prefer full produced songs. But I know that there's a lot of people who really prefer acoustic versions. I would say that my favourite song from this album is LA Song. It's a really good vibey song. Finally, back to McGay's, Sam Smith's new album. Really like it. I didn't love it first listen, but some of the songs really grabbed me. And going back and re-listening to those songs has kind of opened the door for the rest of the album for me, and so now I really appreciate it as a body of work. And obviously Sam Smith's got a great voice, and I really appreciate everything that he's doing, and that he's taking responsibility for what happened at the Oscars, and I just think that, like, he's doing the damn thing. He's out there singing his ass off and is working very hard, and I love watching interviews with him because he's clearly just having a very nice time at the moment, and I love that. I love to see a happy gay. I would like the gays to stop being mean to him, because he doesn't deserve it. I would say my favourite songs from this album are, I would say that probably him and No Peace are my favourite, but the trio of him into Baby You Make Me Crazy and then into No Peace is like the golden trio of that little album. It's so good. That little bit at the end of him where there's like all the different parts overlaying and it's like the gospel choir and there's the really low bit that's like, in my love, is so good. It's a fantastic little bit of production. Okay, my camera cut out. That's my albums of the year. So last couple of things. I've got an EP out, and I've got a part 2 of that EP coming out in a couple of weeks. Hopeless Romantic Part 1 and Part 2, respectively. The first 2 tracks from Part 2 are up on my YouTube channel called Deep Cut and Boy, so please go check those out. There'll be playlists of everything that I've talked about in today's video in the description. I hope you've enjoyed. See you on the flip side.